There goes the baker with his tray like always. The same old bread and rolls to sell. Every morning just the same, since the morning that we came to this poor provincial town.
Hello folks, this is your host, Tammy Tuckey, and you are now listening to the Tiara Talk Show. We bring you rare interviews with the makers of Disney magic. Whether they be singers, actors, Imagineers, animators, they have all made their mark on the Disney name. Be sure to check out the show notes, other episodes, contests, our social media pages from Facebook to Twitter, and more on our official website at www.thetiaratalkshow.com. Are you looking to plan and book an upcoming Disney vacation? Contact the Tiara Talk Show's official travel agent, James from Destinations in Florida, by visiting destinationsinflorida.com/tiara for a free quote. The link is also included in the show notes on our website. All guest opinions are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the opinions of the Tiara Talk Show or the host. The Tiara Talk Show is not associated with the Disney Company. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. And from all of us here at the Tiara Talk Show, have a hoop-de-doo day.
A most peculiar mademoiselle.
It's a pity and a sin, she doesn't quite fit in, very different from the rest of us.
This week on the Tiara Talk Show, we welcome back our favorite segment on the show, which is called Cast Member Corner, in which we speak to cast members of the Disney theme parks from around the world. Now, to kick off this segment of Cast Member Corner, we're going to introduce the cast of Beauty and the Beast live on stage, the first cast of Beauty and the Beast live on stage, which appeared at Disney's MGM Studios and is still running today.
Hi, everyone. This is Galen Fott, and I opened the Beauty and the Beast live on stage show so many years ago as Gaston.
And I'm Andrea Canny, and on November 22nd, 1991, I was one of the original Belles in Beauty and the Beast live on stage at the MGM Studios.
And I'm Joy Andersen. I came into the show probably, I believe, in May of 92. So the show had been open about a half a year before I got in there, and I was a dancer.
This is Jonathan. I was one of the I was on the opening cast as one of the Cogsworths.
And Scott?
Looks like we lost him to the Mardi Gras party.
Did we lose you, Scott?
Scott actually was. I'll introduce for him. Scott Perman was one of the other Cogsworths that was on the opening cast with us.
Hi, I'm Jeff LePoutre, and I'm actually currently still in the Beauty and the Beast show after 15 years now.
My name is Keith Wilson, and when we opened Beauty and the Beast, myself and another dancer, male dancer, we were the swing dancers responsible for the 7 male dance parts in the show. We had to know all of them and know what to do and where to go.
Now, this was a really exciting time for Disney's MGM Studios, which we were kind of discussing off air, and especially for the animation studios in California, because they were reeling out these amazing Disney films, which one of them was Beauty and the Beast. What was your first experience in joining this project?
For me, I opened this, a bunch of us opened the studios in 1989 in the Hollywood show. That ran for a couple of years, and we went into the next show. We just automatically went into Hollywood's Pretty Woman, and then we all automatically went into Beauty and the Beast. So we were contracted just for a year, but they could change shows, and it just happened to change it into Beauty and the Beast. So that's how I became a part of that. I was already there, and they just put me into Beauty and the Beast.
For characters, it was a little bit of a different process. We had auditions that they did probably about maybe 3 months before show opening. And one thing that was really exciting that they took us as the characters over to the animation building, and they let us see like an early version of the movie before it was released. We saw, in fact, the animation wasn't even complete at the time. They had of course, the audio track. But during part of the audio track, it was just still shots of sketches and things. So that was really exciting.
Well, I auditioned for the show up in New York. My agent submitted me for it. It was Disney's Beauty and the Beast. Sounds great. And they were looking for Belle, who was supposed to be beautiful and, a beautiful young lady. And clearly that was going to be Beauty. And then they were looking for Gaston. And it said, he's a big, strong guy with a really deep kind of voice and a masculine presence. And I thought, okay, well, that's the Beast then. So Gaston must be the Beast. So I went into the whole audition and everything thinking that I was auditioning for the Beast. And I got a call back, and as I was looking over the music that we were supposed to sing, I was like, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. And then that's when I figured out that Gaston wasn't the Beast at all. He was some completely different guy.
Nothing like doing your research.
No, there was, who knew?
I had been in Europe for a year doing 42nd Street, and when I came back home, I wanted to visit some friends of mine that worked at Disney. I hadn't seen them in about 2 years, and so I said, in a phone call, I said, get me an audition for anything so I can write the trip off. And they were like, great, there's this new show, Beauty and the Beast, that's going on. I was like, good, done. So I fly in on a Friday. This is the end of October, by the way, and we opened at the end of November. I fly in on a Friday, audition on Saturday, get offered the job on Sunday. And my vacation was going to overlap with the beginnings of rehearsal. And so our director, Judy, asked me, she was like, okay, we will like to hire you as one of the Bells in the show. But I know you're from out of town. What will it take to get you here? And so I said, well, I can start rehearsals with you next week. And then I'll fly home to Cincinnati on the 6th, get divorced on the 7th, pack on the 8th, and then pack up my life on the 9th. How does that sound for you? And she kind of just blinked her big eyes at me and was like, okay, done. And it was history.
I was in the German Beer Garden show that they were doing a transition over at Epcot. And then I was placed at Beauty and the Beast as a dancer.
I had left the company in '87, and I was living out in LA, and I really didn't like it. I wanted to come back to the company. I didn't really know what to do, so I made some calls. I followed the same path sort of as Andrea. I came back. Oh, minus the divorce piece. I came back. I flew in from LA. I auditioned one day. By the time I got back to Los Angeles, there was already a message on my phone that I had been hired, and yes, we want you to do the Beauty and the Beast show, and drove back to Walt Disney World and joined the cast then.
I auditioned actually 6 times to get the role, and at the time I was living in Tampa. I had done a previous show at Walt Disney World before, and contract finished, went to Tampa, and then auditioned again. I'm still in it. I was full-time for 14 years. I'm just a sub now, so I go, as needed. It's usually like 2 or 3, maybe sometimes 4 times a month.
So when rehearsals first began, did you guys play a lot of games to get to know each other and then go from there? Because it just seems like you guys are a big family.
No, I think we just jumped right into rehearsing. I don't remember playing any theater games or anything. I think it was like, here's the scene, go, here's rehearsal. And so I think the show was thrown together, and it was more of a, let's just put it together and see what happens and workshop this.
Actually, Keith, as I understand it, for the first time in Disney history with the Beauty and the Beast show, they planned on releasing, the movie was going to open the very same day that we opened on stage. It was the first time they were going to try to do something like that. As with any show, you often have such a short amount of time to get your feet on the stage and make everything work. You really learn about each other through trust right then, right there. As you're going through the rehearsal process, you're learning about everybody, and you kind of become a family. It's kind of like how they make a diamond. You're under pressure, and boom, now you're there.
I remember that when Trudy already worked for Disney at Top of the World and had already been cast as a Belle, and we had mutual friends, very close friends, and they all said, oh my gosh, you guys are going to love each other. And we both thought, okay, now we're totally going to hate each other because everyone said that. And we remember, it's one of our favorite memories. We walked into vocal rehearsal with Jimmy Agnew for the very first time meeting each other. And we sat down. We were both so excited. We liked each other immediately and just bonded. We've been best friends ever since. But we were so excited. We sat down and we saw this huge stack of music that Jimmy put in front of us. And we were both looking at each other like, oh my God, we get to do this. This is so cool. Look at all this music. We're so excited to delve into it. And so Jimmy sits down, as dry humor as he has, and he sits down, puts his glasses on, looks at the first song and goes, yeah, you're not in that. Puts that to the side, does that about 2 or 3 more times. Oh yeah, okay, you're in that one. And at the end, we're only in 2 songs, and we learned them like within 15 minutes. We kind of looked at each other, we're like, this is it, this is all we get to do.
Was it around 2001 or so that the show got a complete revisal, right?
Yes, 2001. Yes, I think spring of 2001.
Yeah.
Right.
Our director, Tom Vazana, actually put the story in order and brought the storyteller back to it. And it makes a lot more sense because in the beginning, they were formatting it based on Disney shows that were shorter, just snippets of things. And Tom turned it into like a real story, a real show.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, much more
and
like...
bats went away.
Hey, bye-bye. Yeah, they made it much more like the Broadway version and the, I think the Disneyland version also. They both really tried to tell the story in order, just like the movie.
And you guys got to perform live for the, maybe not live, for the Christmas parade. I think for the Disney's Christmas, they featured Beauty and the Beast that year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, uh-huh.
But that year they did a whole video segment of the show, which was really cool. And then I know for 1 year I think it was just Andrea in a carriage, but throughout the years we did do like the waltz or we did waltz stuff. It was different. Every year was a little different. We were featured.
We did it one time. We did it in the parade, and then we did also a segment on Regis and Kelly. It was actually for Regis's birthday, and was that Keith talking there? Keith? Yeah. Melissa's dress just knocked over the table with Regis cake on it, and then there was a little chocolate Mickey on top.
Specially made chocolate Mickey that some chef made.
And then Kelly just grabs the little Mickey at the end. Oh, look, it's little Mickey's head! And it was the girl was mortified. It was just like it wasn't there at rehearsal. So guess what? All of a sudden we show up over there and there's a big table with a cake on it. So whoops.
We were always doing some, TV special little things here and there throughout the years, for parades, for Christmas or Easter or Kelly and Regis and stuff like that.
What's that show that I did, Keith, with the Extreme Makeover, the home thing, whatever? What was that?
That show called Extreme Home Makeover?
Yes, that's what I did. Yeah, but actually the girl was a dancer up in, I want to say like Michigan or something, whatever, and dedicated her whole life to like teaching and whatnot.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, and then they brought her over while they were doing her house, and they put her on stage. She was literally 2 feet tall, and they had to alter an entire ball gown for her only for that performance. And they stuck her in the waltz at the end, and I was her partner. It was just like one of those things, the weird things. But they took about 20 inches off because the girl was so short. Yeah.
Just put her in the chip outfit. My favorite memories from the parades, I was lucky because as Belle, they let me do Christmas and Easter. But for Easter, one time they had Robbie Benson, the original voice of the Beast, as kind of a man on the streets. And I got to get out there and dance with him on Main Street, which was amazing. And then we did a lot of conventions where I got to actually sing something there with him in a gorgeous gown in Las Vegas and got to look into his gorgeous baby blue eyes. It was amazing. And then when Oprah brought her whole audience to Disney that one time, I was lucky. Brad Sharp, one of our princes and dancers, we got to do the Oprah show when they did. Peebo Bryson and Celine Dion were there, and they sang Beauty and the Beast, the pop version. And that was, my eyes are pretty watery in my picture of me in my gown with Celine Dion. I'm like, oh, Celine Dion.
And Andrea, you and I did a neat show in New York at the Waldorf Astoria. Remember that?
Yeah.
We went up and we got to do a show with Paige O'Hara, the voice of Belle, and Jerry Orbach, the voice of Lumiere, and Lea Salonga. I got to sing. It was almost, I think, the premiere of the song "A Whole New World."
It was
from Aladdin, and I got to sing it with Lea Salonga on top of a grand piano.
I'm jealous.
Cool, that's neat.
It was so amazing. And to be honest, the producer Don Franz, I've gotten to know him quite well, and now he's producer of Disenchanted in New York right now. But back then, to hear him tell this whole story is amazing. That one gig we did, it was the gold medal presentation, and Michael Eisner was receiving that award. Kathy Lee and Regis were hosts.
Right.
But it was after that gig that, because it was all in beautiful gowns and tuxes, and Paula Pell, who's been writing for SNL for a long time now,
Right.
she was the Mrs. Potts character. As soon as, like, we got back to the dressing room after Michael Eisner had already gotten there, and at that point, it had already been up for discussion about doing Beauty and the Beast on Broadway, and he had pretty much scrapped the idea and said, don't bring it up to me again. And after that gig, he said to Don and to Chase Senge, the director, he said, now we can do Beauty and the Beast on stage. And he had a meeting with the mayor at the time, walked around 42nd Street, and that's basically, this one gig is kind of responsible for 42nd Street getting cleaned up and Disney starting to do all these musicals.
And you were a part of it.
And Lea Salonga's mom helped me do my hair.
God.
That's so sweet.
She and her mom were the sweetest women on the planet. They were so lovely.
Oh, that is good to hear.
What about the promotion photos? I heard there's a lot of story behind those because they were taken at night.
Oh, I had a blast, actually. It was very easy. Cogsworth costume is like a condo. I mean, you can just hang out in there. I used to carry, keep snacks in my pocket. But because it was tucked in the very back, and of course they just had me tilted had Cogsworth tilted one way. And the lights were so bright, and it was coming through into the costume so great. I was reading the newspaper actually during the photo shoot. That was
Nice.
our equity
Inside
guy.
your costume?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Light shining out of the eyes.
Yep. Then we were interacting. There was some. They had like a family that was brought up. As an equity performer. Actor with a couple of kids that they brought in and interacting with Cogsworth. And there was a little bit of that, had to actually do something there. But during the big scene where you see Belle and Beast dead center, and everybody else kind of panned out afterwards, nope, just inside, enjoying, hanging out, reading the paper.
It was so nice though when every now and then we got to do the show at night, and it was so nice because suddenly it was like the real theater with beautiful lighting. I mean, they had all this.
I know, because during the day you don't see the lighting. At nighttime, it was always fun to do, and the capes would show up, all that neon orange underneath the capes would show up, and again, lighting and the flames that they have, after the basketball thing. It was always so much nicer to do a night show.
The show must go on for every show, of course. I spoke with Jeff a couple of months ago about The Spirit of Pocahontas because Jeff was in that. And Jeff and the cast were telling me how they had a Pocahontas-less show. Now, has there ever been a Belle-less show or a Beast-less show at Beauty and the Beast Live on stage? And how did that happen?
We actually did a Beauty and the Beast. We did a show without the Beast. I don't know. I don't remember how we did it. I think it was cut and pasted and spliced. But we did a no Beast show one time. We were just
always a way.
There's always a way. And many, many versions of that show have been done over the decades.
We also had a no Belle show, but somebody had screwed up the schedule, I guess, and so they didn't have a Belle, and so they kind of slapped, I think, was it Tina Hart or somebody? They shoved her in a Belle outfit and wig, and no, it was Beth Riggio, I think.
Beth Riggio, yes, she did.
Wave at the audience from the stage. I don't know,
Beth
but my favorite
Riggio.
story, Trudy's not here to protect herself, so
Uh-oh.
I'm going to do what every good best friend does. I'm going to throw her under the bus. There was one time when, we were always learning since it was a new show, and at this point we didn't really discuss whether if something were to happen to one of the principals, would we replace them in the middle of the show? And we had Sarah Soley Shannon at the time.
Oh, God.
Went on to Broadway. She's a wonderfully talented dancer and singer. She was an in-cast sub for Belle. So there was one day.
No, I know the story.
I was there. I remember it like it was yesterday.
When Trudy
Bless her heart.
thought she was having a heart attack. And she was trying to get into her gold gown and she couldn't breathe and she thought she was having a heart attack. So they have to call an alpha unit. And so they're like, oh my God, they're panicking, they're scrambling. So they go run and get Sarah off stage as a dancer and they put her in, they get her gown out, but Sarah is a blonde. I mean, like Danish blonde, like Joy. And they slapped a wig on her so fast to get her out in that gown that poor Sarah comes out in the gown late. The gown is on, but she's got like about 5 inches of blonde, and then the brown wig on the back of her head. And that was the day when we realized you cannot replace a principal in the middle of the show because it's a bad show. But the best part of the story is that poor Trudy's in the Alpha unit in the back, parking lot or parking area of Beauty and the Beast, and she's in so much pain, and she finally rolls over on her side, and all of a sudden lets out the biggest fart, and she's like, "Oh my God, I feel so embarrassed. It was just gas." And the EMT was like, "Oh, honey, don't worry. I've seen grown men cry over gas."
People are always tripping up and down the stairs in those ball gowns, Lumiere falling over, the parfait falling over, tripping.
Stepping out as Cogsworth, stepping from the wings as Cogsworth, and falling down right at it's a guest, blah, 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 blah. And the dancers, okay, as Jonathan was mentioning before, the Cogsworth costume, not unlike a condominium, it had a back harness inside. So as you wore the costume, you actually never touched the costume because you were wearing this backpack, and the costume was on the backpack, the big box. So when I fell down face first onto the stage, I was suspended, not unlike like you might be in a hang glider, like inside the box. I'm like not
Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible,
little flipper arms trying to, and all I remember hearing was the dancers, all of you guys. It's where you have your spoons, and you're going to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. You're running around the big table, and all I could hear was boom, 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 up your steps, like left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and nobody to stop. And I believe they drug me, they pulled me off stage by my feet, and then stood me back up, and then I ran back out. All the other characters, by that point, everything was.
At one point, there was the blow up Mrs. Potts. There was a blow. They tried a new character with Mrs. Potts.
The inflatable.
Inflatable.
And Michael Shea, he was one of the first to use that, and he would go into Mrs. Potts, and he could make her mouth move, and it would just make all of us laugh. Because she would be singing, be our guest.
Well, speaking of Michael Shea, when he was in the regular Mrs. Potts, there was one show. I mean, Michael Shea's hands down the funniest man I've ever met in my entire life. And he fell over as Mrs. Potts. But his poor little scrawny legs were out to the audience. And his little legs were like, trying to get up. And so I'm doing something there where I'm like greeting all the characters. And so I thought, I'm going to take the bull by the horns. I'm going to take his by the ankles, and I'm going to swing him around. so and the techs will come get him. Well, that costume was a little heavier. He might have been, 9 pounds soaking wet, but that costume was a little heavier. And so all you see is tugging up poor Mrs. Potts. I have no idea how I got through it.
One of my favorite memories, and this is from Steve LaMontagne, Lord bless his soul there.
Oh, good Lord.
He played a little trick on me during one show, and it was, he had hidden a digital alarm clock inside my little condominium, and in between, and so he had it timed so that it would go off during the fight scene. He had it down to a T. He was a sharp man, had it set, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the show, I hear this echoing around my little foam house there, and I'm like, what is that? What is that? I'm yelling. You can yell at each other, and I'm like, I think it was in the fight scene. I'm yelling at one of the guys. I don't know who it was with. I said, "Do you hear that? Do you hear that noise?" I'm like, no. It's driving me nuts. Couldn't hear it. I think I took I think in between acts, came back again later. I still heard it again. It was still going on. I'm like, I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Just didn't know.
You got to meet a couple celebrities. You were saying that you got to meet Oprah and Celine Dion. What other celebrities did you get to meet as well?
We had a lot of people, because it was at the same time, I think it was like on maybe Wednesdays or something, they would have a star at the studios, and it was on the same stage. And so because of that, they were a lot of people. I remember Betty White. I remember June Lockhart. Michael Jackson came, and he loved the show. He saw it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I remember.
Sandy Patty would come to the show all the time with her family.
Ben Vereen, I remember.
Patty Duke.
Reynolds was there, and Donald O'Connor. I remember meeting backstage and finding out that he was a lefty, and so all of the dancers, like myself, who were more lefties, were very happy to talk to him about that.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Van Johnson.
Yep. When I was a kid, MASH was my favorite show, and McLean Stevenson was a star. Back then, it was Stars of the Week, so we hung out with him on the breezeway and just chatted. And
he was very cool. He flipped over a bucket, sat down on the bucket, and just hung out and talked. I remember that. Yeah.
He was so nice.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a Star Day program. They were there for 5 days, and we got to meet. And they had done that since the studio had opened. So even during Hollywood and Pretty Woman, we met so many people. Sid Charisse, Donald O'Connor, Ginger Rogers. It was amazing.
Yeah, we got to see Ginger Rogers in the F&G, the Fred and Ginger rehearsal room, which was amazing.
Wow.
So besides Jeff, do you guys think that you could just hop back on stage and do exactly what you did a couple years ago?
Yeah. I could still get up and do the Diamond Horseshoe show that I learned back in 1987. Once I do a show that much, it's there. It's muscle memory. I was gone. I left Beauty and the Beast in 97 and came back in 2000 and basically just got right back into the show. I heard the music, autopilot, go. I could jump up and get back into that show if I had to.
You have one of the best memories because you can remember things 20 years ago and you still do them.
It's a gift.
Yeah, it's funny how the music will trigger. When Beauty and the Beast finally was made into a Broadway production and the touring show came to Tampa, I went to go see it. And it's just funny how, the musical cues, I think I zoned out during the opening number because it was just, that's what I would do. I mean, you go back and you learn. You listen for sound cues to it's time to go, get your costume, on and go on out.
And I think too, when you're a performer at Walt Disney World, one of the interesting things, I did an addition. I added up the amount of shows or performances that I've done probably over my span at Disney, and I think I'm in the 30,000 range, something like that. And Beauty and the Beast, when you've done it for years and years, it's kind of like body memory.
Galen, do you remember when we timed how long Gaston and Belle were on stage? Because we were like, my roll's harder. No, your roll. My roll's harder. Yours was like 9-something minutes, and Belle's was 11 minutes, 14 seconds. I'll never forget it.
Now, could we go down the line and just see what you guys have been doing since the first year it came out? Because I'd love to hear some of the other roles you guys have done at Walt Disney World.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, I did our first contract was only for 6 or 7 months, so I completed that contract, and then they offered me another one, but I went off to do another job, and I worked at a bunch of theaters for the next 3 or 4 years. Then I came back in '95, and I was a singer in Alfredo's, the Italian restaurant at Epcot. I did that for almost 7 years, and so that's been the extent of my involvement with Disney right there.
Excellent. This is Joy. I was at Beauty and the Beast for 2.5 years. After that, I went over to be an actor in street theater. Then I went to Pleasure Island. And actually, when I was at Beauty and the Beast, I was a Rockette as well. I took a leave of absence to go be a Rockette up in New York. I went and did street theater. Then I did the Adventurers Club. Then I did improv comedy at the Comedy Warehouse. I was in the opening cast of American Idol as a judge. And I did Mulch, Sweat, and Shears. And now I'm at the Monsters Laugh Floor doing interactive comedy as a cartoon. Yeah, and I also did the Bird Show, the Flights of Wonder show.
Yeah, for me, Beauty and the Beast, I did full-time 4.5 years. And then I literally went from princess to gargoyle in one contract talk. And so I opened as Laverne in Hunchback, and I also learned Esmeralda, and I subbed that an awful lot at the same time as subbing Beauty and the Beast. I also was in the original sub cast of Doug Live as Patty Mayonnaise.
Too cool. I love Doug.
Hey, you guys.
When I first got to Disney, Rodney Rodriguez let me learn the maid role as a sub at the Adventurers Club. But then I did Hoop-de-Doo as Flora for quite a long time. I did Swing and Sing in Tokyo for 9.5 months. Came back and subbed a lot of shows. Did Japan again 2 other times for Disney. When the island closed in 2008, September 27th of 2008, I started December 8th as an original casting director for American Idol Experience, and left Idol to go back to Hoop-de-Doo as Dolly Drew, and I've been there ever since.
Let's see, right at Beauty and the Beast of the opening, I went also later and learned another opening of a show, Muppets on Location, which was the second of one of the Jim Henson shows there at Disney Jim Studios. I got to open that. Went to France to open up that park shortly afterwards in 92. And as a sub management position called a lead, in that. Came back, stayed with Disney Entertainment for a while. Also worked at Universal Studios for a bit, doing Ghostbusters and as an MC at Game Lab. And then 95, I left entertainment at Disney and began a long process of doing different things in guest service and operational type roles. Where I currently have landed now is I'm a secretary now, currently out on a temporary assignment as exec sec at Disney Cruise Line Entertainment, but I'll be going back to my home at the Polynesian Resort in about a month, so back to be secretary of food and beverage there, which one event that I do there is every year I'm in charge of the annual hula competition, where I like to perpetuate the Hawaiian culture and to use the hula competition as an education piece across property on teaching Polynesian culture, particularly Hawaiian culture. And we have so many people that are interested in joining and learning that it's just a fun event every time. And so I get to do that and MC the show. So that's a very good time.
Now, Scott left, so I don't know his backstory. Do you know his backstory, Jonathan?
A little bit. And Scott Perman, I hope you don't mind me talking for you, but I'm so proud of him because he's taken a path that I really love to, and that's on the food and beverage route of things. Scott left, I think he went to Arizona, and he attended culinary school out that way and became a baker. And so he has come back to Florida, and he's got his own bakery. I can't remember, Scott, forgive me, I don't know where it's located. But I've seen pictures of some of the things he does, and it's just absolutely gorgeous, some of the work that this guy can do.
And he makes a lot of dough.
Yeah. Oh, that was rich. That's good. But really, I think it's fascinating what he does, and so I'm very proud of him and what he's been able to do. And I hope I got that right, Scott. I know you can hear me, so I hope it did good for you.
Well, I'm still in it. So, but I do other stuff. I mean, I've opened the Dream Along with Mickey show up in the castle in the midst of my contracts. I did the Cinderella Celebration show also. That was before Dream Along. I'm a senior educator for Sephora, which is a big word for assistant manager at Sephora, where I'm like makeup artist and all that good stuff. And I work at also Kenneth Cole. I do valet part-time. I'm pretty busy.
I started at Disney, and I did the Diamond Horseshoe show at the Magic Kingdom, and then moved over to the studios when that opened up in '89 and did the Hollywood show, turned into Hollywood's Pretty Woman, and then turned into Beauty and the Beast. And I was with that full-time for a long time. But I was also lucky enough to leave and come back a lot. I would take my summers and use my vacation time and equity leave of absence to go out and do musical theater out in St. Louis at the Muni, which is an amazing theater. I left to go to Germany. I did Cats in Germany. I left to do a national tour of Hello Dolly with Carol Channing. Other Disney, I was on the inaugural cast of the Disney Magic, and also did Cats in New York. And when that show closed, I called up Disney. I was like, I'm done with New York. I want to come back where it's warm. And was at Beauty and the Beast up until 2008. So that was a lot of Disney and a lot of outside stuff. And it was amazing experiences. And American Idol, too. And American Idol. And Hoop-de-Doo. I did Johnny and Hoop-de-Doo also. And Pleasure Island Explosion Dancer. Oh, God, I forgot that. Sorry.
It's so fascinating. All of you have amazing resumes, and I'm so glad you could join me on the show this evening. This was a lot of fun speaking with all of you on the show tonight. Before we leave our conversation, I just wanted to ask, what word comes to mind when you think about your entire working experience for Disney?
Fun.
Magical.
Family.
Gosh, variety. It's really a noun.
Awesome.
But okay.
Friends.
Stop it, I say. Do you hear me? All of you. I said quiet! If we're going to do this, then let's do it.